All right, got some interesting stuff for you. I think that the Houston Texans are going to sign players in positions that we're not necessarily expecting them to sign players in. And one of those positions, I know we've talked about edge rusher, we've talked about defensive tackle, we've talked about running back, we've talked about a lot of different things. What about the bread and butter of DeMeco Ryans? Linebacker. DeMeco Ryans said we need to improve up front. The front seven on defense, the offensive line on offense, but mostly when he was talking about that quote, we don't want to take things out of context here. He was talking about his defensive front seven. And that doesn't just mean the defensive line. I think so often when we think of up front, we just think, oh, that means defensive line. Well, saw a great article recently that talked about Frankie Louu could be DeMeco Ryans' dream linebacker. And you may know some about him, you may not. Burns is getting all the attention as far as free agents. Frankie Louu is kind of an interesting guy. So he came into the league and he wasn't originally, how do I want to say this, in the position he's in now. I guess that's actually a really easy way to say it. He came into the league with the Jets and really kind of struggled to find his footing. He was an edge defender there for 3 years, and the fourth year he was still an edge defender when he got moved to Carolina. And then over the last 2 years, he has played primarily, pretty much completely, at an inside linebacker position. All right, so here's some of the crazy stats. He never got more than 249 snaps until the last 2 years where he got 941 and 989. So he's this guy who's 27 years old. He doesn't have a ton of miles on his body, and he just recently made a switch over to being a primarily inside linebacker, and he has absolutely thrived in that position. He gets a PFF grade of 78 and 75, respectively, over the last 2 years. His run defensive grade is good. His pass rush grade is immaculate because he uses some of those edge rushing skills to get there. The guy knows exactly what to do. So in this video, I want to talk about a couple things. But first, if you're new to the channel, we are Lions fans, but we love the NFL and we love teams that the national media kind of ignores. So we've created this channel, Sports Talk Extra. Now we just do a ton of Texans content and some Browns content as well. We're well over 50 videos for the Texans, and we've been doing it since before you were all good, so don't tell me we're hopping on a bandwagon. But let's first look at who Frankie would be replacing, and it is this guy, Denzel Perman, and he had a rough year last year. He was pretty good against the run, but overall, he just kind of struggled in pass coverage. He really, really struggled. And, he's 31 going into, he'll be 32 by the end of next year. He's been a decent player throughout his career, but it's time for him to move on. So who are you going to sign in replace of him? Now, I understand that there's certain people that you're going to have to give money to. I understand that. Cashman's if he's going to stay around, we'll see what that looks like. But if you're looking to replace your straight middle linebacker, Frankie Louu can absolutely be the guy. In fact, when we look at the stats, I would love to get into it even a little bit more. When he was playing under the system in which he would be playing a similar 4-3 scheme to, he had 111 tackles, 7 sacks, 19 tackles for loss. All right, that's nuts. All right, while wearing the green dot. And so here's the questions that we have to ask. All right, is he worth it? All right, so let's first go into what he brings, and then we can go into how much he will cost, if that makes sense. So what he brings a guy that is not necessarily an explosive athlete, but just knows how to win. He's a guy who knows how to get to the quarterback. He's a guy who knows how to use leverage. He's honestly a guy who just makes plays. When you look at it, whether it's on PFF grade, whether it's on production, there's not a lot of 100 tackle, 5+ sack guys out there. There's just not. And so when I see him, I just think to myself, okay, what does that look like? Last year, he was on the back end of a 2-year, $9 million contract. He was making $4.5 million a year. According to Spotrac, when we look at his market value, he comes at $11.2 million. This is a fairly affordable, proven commodity at middle linebacker. So the question I have for all of you is this the path you want to take? You know you need a new middle linebacker. You also know that you have a head coach that is phenomenal at developing middle linebackers and linebackers in general. So would you rather just hand money to a guy who's been proven and can thrive even more in this system, definitely more than he did in Carolina, right? Or do you want to use some draft capital on a middle linebacker and just trust that he will develop at a high rate? That's kind of the question you have to ask yourself. Do you want to go linebacker now, proven? Give him a 3-4 year deal, be good, and by the time that 4 years is up, he'll be the same age as Denzel Perman. I think a 4-year, $40 million, $45 million deal, that's not a bad deal for a guy like him. All right. Or do you want to bring in somebody else and just trust that it'll be good? You need to fill in the middle of the field. You need to go, and this is where the Texans, they went 10-7 last year. They were weak up the middle, whether you're talking D tackle, middle linebacker, safety was pretty good. I actually like their safeties, right? But they were in that front seven, D tackle, middle linebacker, and then when you go over to the offensive side, running back. Right, running back. And you have to figure out what you're going to do with the center and guard combo and all that kind of stuff. You have a team that wants to be strong up the middle. That's how DeMeco Ryans plays. All right, that's what he had when he was in San Francisco with the 49ers. He had strong players up front, and he had just the game's best middle linebacker in Fred Warner. So, that is what you're wondering, but Fred Warner, what most people don't realize, dude was drafted in the 4th, 5th round. I don't know if I'm correct on that. I should look that up. I'll look that up right now as I'm talking to you because I don't want to say anything wrong. All right. He was the 70th overall pick. So he was a 3rd round pick. All right. So could you steal and develop another guy like that in the draft? And that would be extremely less expensive than Frankie Louu. But at the same time, he would end up being considerably more expensive than Frankie Louu. So you let me know. I think, hey, maybe they just found a plug-and-play guy, put him on a 4-year contract so it doesn't affect C.J. Stroud's contract, and then you draft a depth linebacker in the next couple of years, and you're good to go. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.